Welcome everyone to the Town of Brookfield Select Board meeting Thursday, October 17th at, please stand and pledge flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we are recording and live streaming. If anyone has anything to address during any sort of public comment, Jacob asked if we can just have him come up to the microphone here. I'd like to say congratulations to Library Director Brenda Metterville for 25 years of dedicated service to the town. Under Brenda's guidance, the library is transformed into a vibrant hub that embodies the spirit of accessibility and community engagement. So thank you to Brenda for your longtime commitment to the residents of Brookfield. May your work continue for many more years. And the other big news in town here is big kudos to our new interim superintendent, Lindsay Rockwood. I'm pretty certain now that she started from soup to nuts this whole Gay Road resurfacing project. And we were awarded $1 million grant from the MassWorks infrastructure program. I know many residents, even that don't live on Gay Road, are going to appreciate that road being paved.
I drove it for the first time in probably about 3 or 4 months today, and I was like, it is not a minute too soon that we got the funding to do that road work. So,
signed warrants.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Okay, we have 2 warrants. One is for fiscal year 25-08, payroll warrant in the amount of $201,940.18. The second warrant is fiscal year 25-08, accounts payable in the amount of $180,725.71.
Thank you. And item number 1, the sewer tie-in update discussion. Ron, take lead.
Yeah, just briefly, if you recall, several meetings ago, we did have a discussion with some of the town officials from North Brookfield with regards to the possibility of tying in a sewer extension into their existing sewer infrastructure. At the board's request, I did, in fact, reach out to the consultant that had performed the previous sewer extension study from a good 15, 20 years or so ago. And their estimate came in at approximately $50,000 to $60,000 to perform a similar type of a study, which is really just a feasibility study. It doesn't go into the details and the diagrams of the actual project and the extension itself.
Okay. So the question is, because I had looked into this, Board of Health had done this before, and I don't know if we want Board of Health to take the reins back on it and figure it out. Any comment?
so in terms of the last time the study was done, that's who owned the study, or?
Yeah, the Board of Health did the study.
Okay.
Are you looking for it, or?
No, I was looking for some other information relative to the next topic of discussion,
Gotcha.
actually. So I apologize.
Yeah, that's all right.
I was leading forward. So, and
Do you want to bring her up?
yeah. Well,
Do you
or
wanna
does
come
she
up?
have any information?
Do you have any
or
input or?
opinions, or? No.
I have to bring it to the board, whether we want to
Right.
do that. I can just say that there's been no property in
Do you
town
wanna-
there's been no property in town that couldn't have a septic replaced on the property. There's a lot of new alternative septic systems available, Elgin, Presby, even there's even ones for small parcels, so not sure if I understand correctly, what the need is for another study and another push for this, you know, after looking at that a little more thoroughly. So what are your, what is the goal?
It would be, I mean, I think the big need would be for along Route 9 in the village area for business opportunity.
For business opportunity, but the residents of that road would be forced to tie in. So that's something people in town would have to think about. This happens in a lot of towns where
Yeah.
they put it down a road, and then the residents there, and if they just put in a system, spent money on a system last year, well, they've got a certain amount of time before they tie in, and then there's a cost associated with tying in, and there's a continued cost for them. So it's not, you shouldn't be looking at it with just business in mind. You should be looking at it as the residents and is it necessary?
I mean, from what
Well,
I read through the last study, there was a lot of issues outlined that were concerns.
How
And
long
what
ago
you're
was that
correct-
study then?
Yeah,
20 years ago.
Yeah, I think
That's
the
a long
challenge is that
time
there's
ago.
been,
Right.
so, and there has been some enhancements to on-site septic. There's no
Yeah.
doubt that there's a lot of designs out there now that weren't
You have an
available 20
expert
years
on your
ago.
board. You should probably let him speak.
Understood.
Yeah.
Here's the conundrum on that though, right? Because he's an expert and because that's a primary portion of his business, it gets a little bit
Okay.
convoluted. He can speak to it, but can't vote on it, I think, is where we landed with it the last time. Is that correct?
I don't think we're ready to vote on it anyway.
No,
would
I
speak-
understand.
yeah.
I would seek opinion of the Ethics Commission before I do.
Yeah,
but
before
Because
you
it's such a
weigh in
wide
on it.
variety of what I do, I
Yeah.
don't know that I couldn't vote on it.
Yeah, so can he speak to it? Absolutely, right? And that was one of the things that
Well, I
came
mean, he
up
can
during
certainly
our.
tell you what kind of systems are available and things like that.
Right,
yeah.
absolutely. So,
But I can tell you from the Board of Health's perspective, there is no parcel in town that I would be concerned about not being able to replace the system. We do several a year, and, you know, we can replace even in the same location as the current system. I mean, the technology's there now, so I just think you should,
it's probably, and it's one of those questions, I think, and Brad, I think from your perspective, and one of the reasons why we opened the discussion with North Brookfield is that it goes back to like the master plan concept and what's the vision and the mid to long-term plan of what Brookfield looks like, you know, a decade, 2 decades from now, relative to, there's a lot of folks in town with very strong opinions that we need to get more business in town, that we
Well, and I
need.
think even if we started this tomorrow, it's probably gonna be
A
7 to
decade.
10 years.
Yeah, it's a decade
down
away,
the
and
road.
it's a decade away anyway. So the question is, Brookfield today, you're saying it's probably not an urgent, we need it tomorrow, right? But is it something
Yeah,
that
I
we
mean,
need for
another,
that
like-
longer perspective,
and
right?
what will the
I-
regulations look like in 5 years from now in
Right.
terms of discharge? So, I mean, you
Right.
have to know this stuff goes somewhere, and
Well, I
we
mean-
have the problem right now with
Yeah.
Spencer.
With Spencer, yeah.
So, I mean, you can
Right.
just think of that. So, but,
The two other things I know from talking to North Brookfield was the concern about the houses near lakes, which we have.
has not been an issue at this point. I did look into that. I mean,
Yeah.
we had a couple problem properties that needed to be replaced, but they have been successfully replaced.
Yeah.
And we can, you know, attribute
I,
even,
and I guess my fear with this is if we don't at least explore this, you know, and something
we
happens
need
and
it
we
in the
get
future.
forced,
Yeah, it's gonna be way
the
more
cost of a
expensive,
wastewater treatment facility is
way more than
way
time in
more
North
than,
Brookfield.
yeah.
I mean, it may be an anomaly, but this is the first year in many years that we had not any, we are near hitting the threshold for E. coli in the pond. The testing was very low all summer, so it was great. It was nice to see. So I can't even say, you know, we're having a
Yeah.
problem right there right now, so. But,
Well, that's good
I mean,
news,
for the
though.
longevity of the plan, I remember there being a master plan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Was there ever a master plan created? 'Cause it
There's a
seems
Yeah.
like we're
it's-
losing a
it's
lot of
due
other
for-
opportunities.
It's
It-
it's due
it
for
might have-
refresh.
Well, no, it's in the process.
Right.
I'm not sure, planning board, it's with them right now to approve and then
And
it comes up to us.
CMRPC had done a report
Correct.
probably around 2010, so that's a little more recent than the certain study that you're talking about, but was there anything in that report that talked about?
Off the top of my head, no. But I would think,
I don't think so. I think they were talking more about protecting
yeah,
the environment and the vistas and things like that, and I
Yeah.
just, you know, so.
so do we want to
it
punt
does-
the idea altogether and say, wait?
Well, you let me know if you, I can bring it to the board and
Yeah.
pose it.
Why
and-
don't you pose it to the board, if
Yeah.
you don't mind, and just at least get some additional views on
It'll
it?
have to be the November meeting, because we have, this meeting is already gonna be
Does that work
pre-booked
for you?
next week.
I don't,
I have something to
Yeah.
weigh in before you close it. So, as far as I know, North Brookfield has water beyond the 70s. It has had sewer beyond the 70s. And North Brookfield has businesses leaving every year. There's less and less business in North Brookfield. So the fact that we want to spend, I don't know how many millions that this would be, and certainly we could never afford it if we didn't get almost total funding. The next problem is, anytime I've ever seen a business that wants to open up in Brookfield, all the neighbors converge and they don't want it near their place, right? So here we're talking about possibility of bringing business to Brookfield. No one's gonna want a business near their house. We don't have really, very minimal vacant parcels. We do have houses that could be torn down and converted to a business. But demographically, we don't have the people to support a business, right? Like all little mom and pop stores that were in Brookfield. I remember when I was a kid in the early 70s, there were quite a few businesses in Brookfield. They're all gone. They couldn't sustain. And then the fact that we're gonna raise costs for all the residents to put a town sewer, I mean, I think this is not even reality, but that's my perspective. North Brookfield has had the water and sewer as long as I can remember, and they're losing businesses every year. So how do we think by putting town sewer in Brookfield to cost millions is gonna bring business to town? It's gonna bring so very little, it's negligible. And then the fact that the neighbors come out in droves, so the business doesn't open up, this is like nothing that I can see happening. That's all I have to say.
Thoughts?
Question, just, why was it that North Brookfield approached us? That they?
Probably looking for funding to help support
Yeah.
their,
they're
looking
approaching
for
all the
grant money.
towns. Right now, they're trying to regionalize the schooling with
to be able to
West
get grant
Brookfield
money
and,
from someone?
I think they
Yeah.
just spent $19 million to rehab their
Right.
facility, or slightly above. Maybe it was 17, but then it came out to 21. Like, the numbers were
Yeah.
staggering.
it's 20-something, but at least half of it was grant funded.
Yeah.
And usually with sewer systems, they probably have excess capacity, so you're gonna achieve an economies of scale the more and more people you can bring on board. So it becomes more practical for North Brookfield as well.
So I was on the Master Plan Implementation Committee 8 years ago, and that was the master plan that was done 12 or 15 years ago. I didn't bring a copy with me, but I do believe that that's one of the visions that was in the master plan, was to help the growth and to help the community and to help the residents. And I don't know, I haven't seen the new master plan, but I would guess that that is probably still one of those.
I would think it is. I can't say with conviction whether it's on there or not, because I don't know.
We haven't seen
But
a
I
copy
believe
yet. We,
I've
I'd
seen the
expect-
copy, but I
I
don't
believe it
remember
was
offhand.
part
Yeah.
of the one that was done 15 years ago, as one of the prime master plan objectives.
So, here's my thought, and I know that we're gonna be a little bit strapped for grant writer capacity for a bit,
Yeah.
potentially, until we sort that whole situation out. If we can find an appropriate grant source for a feasibility study?
As of right now, there
There
isn't,
isn't one.
no.
Okay,
And there, I mean, Ron and I have been looking at feasibilities on a couple different topics, and they're,
Yeah, it seems to be
Feasibility is the
very
one thing
scarce
now.
for
Yeah.
actual feasibility studies.
okay.
And that is also considered, as Brad said, with some other projects that we're looking at as well. But also, North Brookfield had indicated that, yeah, even when they went through it, they were not able to receive a grant for
Okay,
their
they had to-
feasibility.
They had to go get, they had to decide to pony up.
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, the other option we have would be to get some neighbor input from the standpoint of put a formal public hearing out maybe a month or two from now. After, let's get the input from the Board of Health,
yeah.
and then if there's,
Well, would you want to do that first before giving it to them?
I don't know, what do you think?
I mean, I don't think we're under a timeline
We're not,
here. Yeah.
so my thought would be,
I mean, they
let-
would like us to do it yesterday, but I
well,
think they realize it's not gonna happen.
they're under a timeline,
Yeah.
which is yesterday, right? And I don't, and I hear what people are saying to the contrary, but I can't tell you how many people over the years have, you know, cornered me about how come we can't get sewer
Yeah,
in town and what it would potentially do from a standpoint of development opportunities, right?
right.
So, and I hear what Rich is saying about the fact that everybody wants development opportunities until it's gonna move in next to them, and then it
Mhm.
becomes not in my backyard, right? So,
But also the fact that North Brookfield has had it, and they've lost business. They're not gaining
But
businesses.
there's a lot of other reasons for that, and I don't know, the problem is correlation isn't causation. Like, they're not losing business because they have water and sewer infrastructure.
But they're not gaining it, and they have water and sewer.
Right.
So why are the people gonna come to Brookfield just because we get water and sewer? They already have it, and they're not gaining
So,
business.
yeah, but the difference is that we're proximate to towns that have been growing in the same period of time that North Brookfield's been shrinking. So we functionally border.
What towns, what do you mean by that?
Sturbridge is.
Well,
Sturbridge
is like an
excluded.
apple to a grape.
Well, no, right, but, East has been maintaining or largely maintaining their business base, right? They don't have sewer, but we're on the same corridor as them. West Brookfield has largely maintained their business and commercial base, right? And with Sturbridge just to the south of us, eventually Sturbridge runs out of room, right? And that is going to, that opportunity for.
I think just overall, the brick and mortar stores are closing, right? So overall, but, you know, you guys can do what you want with that.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on it, and I'm cognizant of what's going on. I know East Brookfield, the center of town, has a lot of sand and gravel, so they're less likely to ever want sewer versus Brookfield. It's all hard pan soils with
Yeah.
high water table. West Brookfield, sand and gravel, no water table in the center of town, very cheap septic systems. Again, Brookfield's are more expensive to that. Look at the town of Oxford. It's booming. They don't even have town sewer because they have sand and gravel conditions. But the fact that Brookfield doesn't have good soil doesn't mean bringing sewer to town is a good thing. Because like Maureen said, there's not a septic system in town that can't be replaced, either by a microfast system, a recirculating sand filter that literally takes less than 200 square feet to build, and you'll get 30 years out of it. And the cost of it is no more than the annual cost of sewer, based on what the sewer commissioners that were here, or the selectmen that were here from North Brookfield.
Right. I think those are the numbers that we ought to be putting in front of people, though, for them to make a rational decision. Because you can
Sure.
say that off the top of your head, but we should put something in paper
Well,
and put it in front of people in order for them to understand the pluses
Well,
and minuses.
who's gonna pay for this, right? So the people on the outskirts of town are probably gonna end up paying a large portion, and they're never gonna benefit by it, very similar to the water. I know the water's mostly self-sustaining, but there are times that the townspeople vote for monies to do with the water that the residents on the outskirts of town never take advantage of. So it would be in the same similar situation with the sewer.
Can I give you another piece of information for food for thought here? You have another problem, I think, that's more urgent than the septic, bringing in septic. You have several businesses in town where there is contamination, you know, and we have one like next to Cumberland Farms that, you know, has a major problem with the land. It's a blight in the town. It's, needs to be cleaned up. And, you know, it's gonna be coming up as an issue more and more. I know there's, I see you there, and I know you know that this is a problem, and there's other, like there's the mill, you know, there's places where you're talking about business opportunities. Well, we have businesses or former businesses in town that exist that have issues with those properties, and, you know, thinking
Again,
about,
I
you
think
know.
this topic itself is gonna be 7 to 10 year
Yeah, but there's
runway.
not, there's
So if we
not
wait
a lot
another
of
10
places
years,
to bring in a
Yeah.
new building in town for business. It's
Yeah.
very, there's a lot of like landlocked, you know, and the ones that do exist and are moved on, I mean, there's going to be some cleanup
Mhm.
necessary in this town that you should be thinking about. If you're thinking long-term,
Oh, no, yeah.
be thinking about cleaning up these properties. I know,
that is on the agenda.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, 'cause I know we have looked at it for the last several years, but I still haven't got a clear answer as far as the property next to Cumberland Farms, and then, that seems to be the prime one that might drive things, because if Cumberland Farms were able to buy that, then they can just expand Cumberland Farms and make a nice new.
The problem is Cumberland Farms isn't interested in the property. Yeah, You know what?
No one does.
He-
No, but I'm saying, I never got an answer as far
Yeah.
as who owns the property, what is the
Yeah.
contamination, what's the
Yeah.
level of remediation needed?
So-
Chairman, you're going off subject.
Yeah,
All right, so-
yeah. Thank you, Dave.
Can I just, so, two quick things about sewer. So, first, we have to get a commitment of some sort from North Brookfield on how much capacity they're willing to offer and for what time period they're willing to offer it. So, I personally live in a town who does not have a sewer system, but has purchased sewer capacity from a neighboring town to come down Route 20 and for some of the neighboring streets. We are limited on how much capacity for sewer and water that we're allowed to have as a town, because we purchase from the next town over. So it limits what we're allowed to put up.
Yeah,
And and then the other thing is, working in another town that has sewer for less than 10%, right, in their village district, very similar sized town. We had previously been doing it, kind of a similar setup as we do for the water here. We call it an offset receipt when we do our tax rate. So it's not supposed to be hitting the tax rate, but it's not quite an enterprise fund. For the last 4 years, it has been failing as what they call an offset receipt. So it's not bringing in the same amount of revenue. So this year, the state forced us to put it back in the general fund. So as you can assume, the outskirting residents did not take highly to that, because now they realize they are technically going to pay for it. So it's something you want to bring up in public comment on, how
It-
much is this actually going to cost everybody in town?
And that's one of the reasons why I'm recommending that, yes, have Board of Health
Yeah.
look at it, at least from a,
Well, and the grant
One
opportunities
review.
that exist today might not be here tomorrow
right.
either.
Right.
And to also do a public hearing to get kind of both sides of that discussion, right? What I don't feel comfortable with would be making the decision no, without having a public hearing and let people voice whether they see this as part of like Brookfield's future or not. I will tell you, you actually hit on something that concerned me about when the folks from North Brookfield came, and I'd have to review the tape from it, but it sounded like they had some nominal capacity now,
Correct.
but it did not sound like they had adequate future capacity already planned, which was very concerning to me. And that's one of the reasons, I don't know if you
Well,
remember
and
some of the
if
questions
East
I had
Brookfield beats
coming
us
out
to
of
the
there.
punch, they might not have the capacity to
At all.
take us on
Right.
future.
Well,
But-
the North Brookfield booms again, and, you know,
Yeah.
they have cul-de-sacs coming in and businesses coming in
Right.
10 years, if something takes
Right.
off and everyone moves to North Brookfield, can they
Right, exactly. So there's almost more questions than answers, but again, I still feel like we owe it to the community to ask the question, right? And then try to get the full story for everybody.
I don't want to pile on with the adding to the questions, but one of the things also to consider is the fact, not only will we have to pay off, obviously, a substantial loan, but there's going to be operational costs involved as
Yep,
well.
for
There's
sure,
gonna have to be
yeah.
monitoring and
And
so
a
on and so
lot
forth.
of pumping too, because we'd be literally pumping stuff uphill, because that was my objection to North Brookfield when they came here, was that it would.
Well, and I believe the part of the feasibility isn't just this part of the town either, because I mean, there was opportunity at one point to send to Sturbridge,
Yeah,
which I think would address that side of the river.
that side of the river.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So at this point, then the consensus is to,
refer
two
to-
things. One, revert to the Board of Health for their discussion and their input, and possibly having a hearing of some sort or informational session so that we can solicit some
Input from the.
input perspectives
Yeah.
from the residents. Okay.
You don't need a vote for that, do you?
No, no.
Okay. Free cash discussion. Come on up.
Okay, so this year we got a very large amount of free cash. We got $1,061,482, which is up from last year's amount of $544,000. So the reason that it is up so high, and this should be a one-time thing of it being so high, we closed out 587,000 and change worth of expenditures. Out of that, the operational budget that we closed out was 490,000, and then we closed out 131,000 of unused articles. The biggest one out of that was 97,000 that we did not need for Lewisfield. That was, if you remember, voted 2 years ago as the grant match. We ended up not needing as much in matching funds. We also had an increase in our revenues of 394,000 over what we estimated. And out of that, the biggest thing was the local receipts. Our investments, which is our interest, we budgeted 43,000. We actually took in 107,000, which was an increase of 64,000, and that was due to changing and just renegotiating some interest rates with the banks when our new treasurer got here. So it was actually the fourth quarter that brought us up huge. We took in also 58,000 in miscellaneous revenue. We have an agreement with CMRPC as part of the housing grants that when someone closes out their housing loan grant, what we're calling it, if it's under $35,000 and we keep it for 1 year, we get to keep it and close it out to miscellaneous revenue. If it's over $35,000, we have to put it in an account for future use. We closed out one at $28,000, so we got to keep that. The other big ticket item that made this amount was our foreclosure auction, which we actually had in May of 2023, but we got the revenue in July of 2024. We took in revenue of $160,000. However, because the auction itself was a loser, we got to write off $95,000, which boosts our undesignated fund balance, which is what increases our free cash. So all in all, that is what the biggest items that make up our free cash. So obviously, we will not have another auction proceeds not this year.
Don't say that.
Not this year. Probably not this year or next year, based on the new tax title laws, so it'll be a little while for us. So it should be a one-time thing. Next year, we'll probably drop back pretty close to normal. or
So
a little-
roughly 600K, 5 to 600.
5 to 600, probably closer to 6 now that we've changed our investment rates. We're definitely bringing in a lot more investment income that we've ever had before, which is not only great for the general fund, but it's doing massive things for our trusts, the
And stabilization
stabilizations.
accounts.
All of those accounts are doing great, which includes the OPEB, and then all the miscellaneous trusts that we have, the cemetery, the libraries. So they're all invested with the same firm.
Do you remember the rate that we were getting? Sharon told us that one of those.
I actually have it.
I think it was down at like 1%,
I
and she
think-
got it up to like 4 or 5.
We're like
something.
4.9, I believe.
Yeah, I was
right
gonna say,
now.
it's close to 5%
Yeah.
is what it.
And then
what
we
it got
took,
to.
they just dropped us a quarter, when everything went down a quarter last month.
Yeah.
So I think we're still like high fours,
Fours, yeah.
mid fours.
Yeah.
So that's our free cash. I emailed you all, I think it was 2 weeks ago, with a potential change to our financial reserve policy. So if you remember, we did financial policies back in 2020. The current approved financial reserve policy just states that free cash will be used for capital items, one-time purchases, and then it goes on to say that we will try to strive for stabilization, general stabilization funds to be kept at 8 to 10%, and special stabilization accounts to be kept at 1% of the general operating budget. I sent over a proposal to change the financial reserve policy, only to make 2 changes. The first, because in 2020 we didn't have a town administrator, so I added the word town administrator in, under who is applicable to the policy. And then under the free cash, I added a section that just said, additionally, as much as practical, the town will commit to transferring half of the certified free cash each year into stabilization funds or to pay down debt service. So it does not commit us to anything. It is just general guidance that if we get an amount such as $1 million or something much higher than we generally get, that we will put half of it away. So that was my proposal for that. So that's something for you guys to think about. And my suggestion for this year is, if you are thinking that the policy is a good suggestion, that you do it starting with this year's free cash, because we got such a large amount. We have outstanding debt currently in the amount of 1.2 million overall. We have a small outstanding loan for Mass Water Trust, which we can't early pay off, so I'm taking that off the table.
How much is the loan interest that we were paying on that?
Mass
$1
Water
million?
Trust?
No, on the $1 million one.
So we owe $1.1 million to
Is it?
the bank, which includes the police station and the fire truck. And our current rate is,
I don't need it now.
4.39%.
Yeah,
So
so
we,
the interest we're earning.
So we're out
Yeah,
earning the
slightly.
loan right now.
we are. So I am suggesting that because we just took out this long-term debt in 2023, that we do just a one-time pay down of $180,000. We don't have early pay down restrictions on this. We currently only have budgeted for this fiscal year approximately $50,000, because that is the payment on the loan.
I don't think it would really matter, but can they recast that loan if you do a pay down like that?
So we,
I don't know how it works with municipal.
we could, I believe we can recast the loan whenever we want. When we took out this loan in 2023, from what I've understood from our bond counsel, or from our financial advisor, I should say, we did not actually use our bond rating to get this. It was at his suggestion that because of the dollar amount, it wasn't needed. So we should be able to refinance this. However, if the rates are
Continue to drop.
higher, or they're just sitting the same, we should probably just leave it with the early pay down. If they continue to drop, then it would be in our best interest to maybe make another pay down next year and then refinance. That's my suggestion for that, for $180,000, and I am suggesting we make a $400,000 deposit into the roof stabilization fund. We're currently at $218,000, which is the money we've deposited plus all the
Can you
interest.
hit pause for just a second?
Yep.
How much were you recommending for the pay down?
180,000 at least.
Okay, and keep going, I'm sorry. I just
And
wanted to
then
make sure.
approximately 400,000 into the roof stabilization account. So we currently have 218,000 in there, which was the money we've contributed, plus the interest that the account has earned already. When I spoke to Deb Boyd earlier this week, the roof is coming in over $1 million. This school is planning on kicking in 100,000 to 200,000, which will put the rest of the burden on us. So if we can keep contributing to that, it will avoid having to take out any debt for that project. And we could contribute more if we wanted to, and that would leave us with a balance of about $520,000 to spend on articles.
Oh, so you're not, so that 50%, that would not be until future,
Nope, that would be now.
that would still be
No,
on
but
this one?
fundamentally, so it says we can either pay down debt or
Or
put it in
contribute,
or
yep.
contribute to a stabilization
that's-
fund. So
Yeah.
her
Oh,
recommendation is
okay.
basically that
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 400,
would be,
gotcha.
About-
that would be rough, a little more, it'd be
Little
like
bit more
50,
than half.
little
Yeah.
bit, about 55%. And given the whole roof stabilization thing,
Mhm.
that is probably one of the best targets. I'll be honest with you, especially where right now we've got almost parity between our interest rate and what we're earning. I'd be more inclined to go a little lighter on the loan, on
Which
the
is
pay
fine.
down. It'd be like, I mean, maybe like 120 is more
So
what I
my
think.
original calculation was based on the fact that the original numbers I had for the roof stabilization was that we only needed to contribute 600,000. And then
Gotcha.
when I talked to Deb 2 days ago, she said, no, it's not 600,000, it was never a 50-50 split.
Right.
Sorry.
Got it.
So,
Interesting.
yes.
So I may even have documentation that that's not exactly what was presented to us the first time, but that's a whole nother story for
Yep,
another day.
exactly.
Especially where they got $1
Yeah.
million on their
Even-
excess and deficit for the overall district. You would have thought they could kick in a little
Little bit more.
something.
Yeah, so she said 1 to 200 was what their plan was. But
Yeah, because wasn't the original conversation like at least a third?
Yeah, I thought it was, but I may have
Yeah.
notes or go back. But, yeah, because if anything, I would almost say we'd go 120 on the debt pay down and actually go a little heavier on
which would
the
be perfectly fine, I
stabilization.
just figured those were, like I said, those were the numbers I put together when I thought it was a 50-50 split. And
Roger, okay.
it's not. So generally, and so that's using half, approximately half. In the past 2 years, we generally spend about, last year we spent 300,000 on articles. Nope, sorry, that was fiscal year 24. Fiscal year 24, we spent 300,000 on articles. Last year, we spent 409. So it was a bit heavier of a year. And
Yeah,
that's
but we had
with-
put off a lot of stuff,
We did.
so.
And that's removing our contributions to any stabilizations or OPEBs. Those are just strictly items.
Expenditures.
Yep. So that would be my suggestion for this year.
So in doing this, how much money will we have left for free cash?
You'd have approximately 520,000.
So why wouldn't we put a little more to that based on, if we were gonna go into the budget with roughly 400,000 in free cash, why wouldn't we throw another 100,000 out of it and take it right out and get it
Well,
to
'cause-
pay
So
down our
I think
debt?
I think what we wanna do, and understand this is not a decision we have to make tonight, right? Is, I'm about to start, I already started talking to the department heads. We haven't had a real capital plan in about 5 years. We had a capital plan, we never formally adopted it, but we've done a lot of the stuff that was on there.
we
I
did.
mean, quite frankly, even though it wasn't formally adopted, we've mostly followed that roadmap and done a bunch of the stuff
Yeah,
that was on
we
there.
did.
What I'd like to do, I think this is a great conversation. I don't think we have to make any decisions tonight. I think the overall guidelines that she's talking about make a lot of good sense, right? And it's something to take a look at in consideration once we, and I don't wanna, it's not really on the agenda, so I wanna be careful about how much of it we cover, but in terms of the free cash discussion, right? I think the other piece of the pie that we need to make this decision and to make the recommendations back to the town is to put that capital plan together and consider those expenditures in the context of a genuine capital plan. So I've already started to talk individually with some of the department heads about, hey, I'm coming for you, okay? Because my recommendation is it's a lot easier for a committee to edit than it is to author. So I'm gonna kind of sit knee to knee with the department heads, put the plan together as a rough draft, right? Bring it to the capital improvement committee, have them hack at it some more, and then bring it back to us as a collective. I'm targeting January.
Mhm.
So, but it's good for us to know your recommendations so that we can try to stay in the same neighborhood, right?
Yep.
The one thing I don't have, which I asked you for, and I don't know when you expect to get it, right, is that in addition to free cash, the things we need to consider relative to that is also what have our revenue streams look like? I get what you're saying, we're not gonna get $1 million every year, right?
Oh, definitely not.
Right, but I would like to understand, hey, historically speaking, last 5 years, we said we were gonna do this for local receipts, here's what we actually did. We said we were gonna do this for, growth, this is what we actually did. We had these operational budgets, and this is how much we turned back over that wound up hitting our free cash line. I'd like to have the 5-year trends on, I gave him a laundry list of metrics to talk to you about, because my schedule's been crappy. So that we are, when we do the capital plan, we're looking at both revenue, expenditure, because I don't think you can really truly capital plan unless you look at both sides of the equation.
No, and most of the time when you do that, you do a 5-year financial forecast at the same time.
Right, so that's what we're looking fundamentally to try
And
to
so,
do.
based on your recommendations, we want to target for 600, but take half of it and put into long-term stabilization.
I'm suggesting the roof
Right.
stabilization.
Right.
But,
Oh, he's
No, but
talking
I
about,
mean
he's
ongoing-
talking about
ongoing.
generally going
oh,
forward.
Policy.
in going forward, yes.
So if that's the case and we have $1 million, should we only be allocating 300,000 towards free cash, as that's what we're projecting every year, and put the rest into?
So if you get $1 million every year, I would target that you take half of that and,
No, but I'm saying for this current year coming up.
He's saying, do we need to put 70% of it away
Right.
instead of half of it, because it's above what we typically get?
no,
Right.
I would go with the half.
Okay.
Honestly, I would try to commit to doing half every year. That way, if there's a year that you get the 600,000, you can try to commit to doing 300.
Mhm.
I mean, currently, we're at,
Good healthy stabilization.
we really do. So our stabilization right now, our general's at 6, our capital's at 1, and I didn't calculate out our roof because it really has no bearing, because it's not gonna be ours to keep.
Right,
It's not ours
right,
to
right,
keep
right.
or use.
Right.
But our capital's at 1, our general could go up, it's at 6, but I
But it
mean,
doesn't suck.
it's still fine.
Yeah.
Just a quick positive comment, because this is the type of information at this point in time
Well, just the fact that we have balanced books so that we can actually get our free cash number in
Well,
October is kind of awesome.
Yeah, this was actually the earliest we've ever done it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is a record,
Yeah.
so,
No, I'm ecstatic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be standing out by the dump because everyone's, resigned. But again, this is wonderful. I'm very, I can't say how happy, I'm sure my community is very happy also.
Okay, question. Do we know yet what the residential tax rate for fiscal year 20?
That's
No.
coming up.
no.
Do we have an idea if it's more or less than the previous year?
The rate, it looks,
I don't think it pertains to free
No,
cash
no.
anyways.
It doesn't.
It certainly does. It absolutely does.
Well,
Because if the residential tax rate goes up, how are you going to explain to the taxpayers, they're paying more money so that you have $1 million surplus?
no,
That's a very
So-
critical issue.
I understand what you're saying, but the topic of discussion was for free cash for setting a policy, not for this particular year based on this year's tax rate.
So in the policy, it also says that we will commit to only ever using free cash for one-time uses. I will absolutely never support you guys putting free cash towards the tax rate or into your budget. It goes wrong horribly
Goes
the
horribly wrong.
following year
Yeah.
when you cannot do it again because you don't have the same amount of free cash, which I'm dealing with currently in another town, and they're going to have to cut their budget by $200,000 because they don't have the money to put in it. So when you fund your budget from and supplement with free cash, you can't do it. The tax rate is meant to fluctuate, but not fluctuate because of free cash. It fluctuates because of values, not because of how much you supplement with free cash. It is meant for one-time uses, which the state even says.
Yeah, there's a lot of communities that get addicted to doing
They
that.
do, and
Yeah.
it's very unfortunate.
I think another thing to keep in mind as we're discussing free cash, and I'll start to segue into the next topic of discussion, is the special town meeting. One thing we have to remember is at the special town meeting, we're gonna have to pay the back pay for the police as part of the police contract.
And that's actually one place where I think it would be appropriate, because didn't some of the free cash that we're enjoying this year come from basically turning back the
Surplus.
police
Absolutely,
yeah.
budget?
I couldn't tell you exactly how much, but yes.
Okay.
Everybody gave some,
Yeah,
including the school. So the school gifted us $50,000
Okay.
last year in the form of a turn back of their expenditure budget,
right.
and chose not to transfer it anywhere else. So I did just want to mention that while we're talking about the roof. But everybody
Oh, that's
gave
good.
some.
So at least 50 of the free cash that we're putting away was their give back from last year.
50, yes.
Okay, that's something.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I don't think I have a paper that shows me exactly how much, oh, maybe I do.
Yeah, if you have last year's expenditures, it should show on the,
It's 23.
because whatever they turn back in, I could see that actually going towards, like, that amount of our free cash going towards paying that back pay, because fundamentally, we're recycling the money that came out of that budget back into it, and it's not the same to me as covering an annual expense, because
I agree
it's the equivalent
100%.
as if we encumbered it at the end of last year.
68,000.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you if it was, I can tell you, it was salary, because I know their expense was empty at the end of the
Right.
year. So it was 68,000.
So you understand what I'm saying,
Yes.
is that when we're looking at it, that would
Yep.
be the one place I would suggest for a quote-unquote operational cost to have it come out of this year's free cash.
Oh,
And that's because
absolutely.
it's the back
Yep.
pay of that getting turned back in.
Well, the only other way we'd be able to fund the back pay would be from raise and appropriate.
Yeah,
We
which we don't wanna
have
do.
No other options.
Yeah.
On
Yep.
that.
So,
So that's one of the things to consider for the special town meeting, is a warrant article to pay the back pay. But then also, if we're going to be adding to the stabilization fund or doing a loan pay down, for lack of a better term, I think those are the types of things, once again, we're going to need an annual town, or excuse me, a special town meeting warrant article and approval in which to do that.
Well, we would typically wait until the end of the year and do it at the annual.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we wouldn't put that on the special,
Okay.
typically.
Which I guess doesn't matter since the interest that we're earning and the interest that we're paying are more or
Yeah.
less equal.
Yeah, I mean, we're not, I don't think we're in a rush to do the pay down, because actually, right now, we're earning slightly more than what the loan is costing us.
A little bit of arbitrage,
So,
but.
yeah.
The only reason you'd want to do it at the special and not for the pay down for the deposit and stabilization is because currently the money is sitting in our general fund account, which does not earn 4%.
Oh, okay, so we may want to do that.
If you wanted to move the money into stabilization now, we would actually be earning
A little more money
a
between
little
them.
bit more money. Not positive what our general fund earns, I think it's more in the neighborhood of 2.
I was gonna say about half.
Yeah. But by law, we can't put general fund money into interest-bearing accounts, unless it's invested that way in the general ledger. So that would be
And it wouldn't hurt anything to put it in the take 400 and put it in the roof stabilization now.
What does that generate for an interest? Is that the same in the roof
the roof,
stabilization?
the roof, the general, and the capital are all invested
Okay.
with Bartholomew, and they all earn the exact same rate. We actually have our trust accounts there, so the cemetery trust, the library trust, we're all earning the exact same rates. So that amount they earn is just based on how much is in the account.
So would we do that at the special then, for that
Could.
reason?
It
We
makes
could
it,
consider putting it on the special,
Oh,
just for the
just that
sake
way
of
that
getting
we
the
Lock it
interest.
up right now.
Yeah, exactly.
and that way we're earning 4+% versus
Right.
2%. So.
Right.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about doing the pay down right now, but more concerned about just dropping some money into the investment account, so it is actually earning while the rates are still high.
Still high, yeah, because that is gonna continue.
But
to
just
drop
because we
with it.
put it into well, I mean, I guess if it's put into stabilization, it's put into stabilization, but I mean,
Well, it's always
We
just
have
a,
the option to
a
vote.
vote
we,
out.
we have an option to
Yep.
vote it out.
You can vote it out.
And 2/3.
Right.
Yeah, it's a two-thirds vote to
Right.
get it out. It's a 50% vote to get it in and a 2/3 to get it out.
Yeah, so just, like I said, we had, 218,000 when we started the year in roof stabilization. The first quarter, we had already made $9,900 just on the money that was in there. So actually, our current balance is 227.
So do you want to, we don't have to put a number in that article, so
Nope.
let's go ahead, I'll make a motion. Well, we don't have a,
I can just do a general, I have to still have to submit my articles anyway, so I can just give you a general article with no dollar amount.
yeah,
Oh, but we need to get this decided on probably,
Yeah.
like right now.
In fact, well, I was going
well,
to say, if we,
have we opened a warrant yet?
no, in fact, I have a little timeline. I have a little timeline
Yeah.
that I wanted to bounce off of you all with regards to the,
I thought we had voted a date, actually. I thought
we had voted a date
last-
for
For the
the
meeting.
special, for the actual
For the
meeting,
special.
which we're going to have to change, frankly.
Microphone?
We got another microphone over here.
But with regards to the special, we have to change the date. We had originally indicated, I believe it was going to be on the 14th. The school is not available, the cafetorium is not available. Boy Scouts have it reserved, I believe, through the end of the year. As such, I'm going to suggest, and I have discussed it with Town Clerk Siri, that we reschedule the special town meeting to be on Wednesday, November 20th, which still gives Mr. Siri time to recover from his presidential election, doesn't interfere with the Boy Scouts in their schedule, and the schools have indicated, yes, it is 100% available, and they have penciled us in for Wednesday, November 20th.
Do you want a motion for that?
I think that would be appropriate, yes.
I'll make a motion that we move the special town meeting date to November 20th per the school availability,
At 7 PM.
7 PM.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now I've got a little bit of a schedule here. So now that we're officially on for the 20th, if we open the warrant, and I guess I'll call this a short warrant,
Right.
and I believe just from the conversation that I've heard, it sounds like the board is probably looking for a short warrant. I know Lori has a couple of housekeeping type articles she'd want to put in there, but I'm suggesting open the warrant article next Monday, close it on the Wednesday, the 23rd. That should give Lori time to sneak in her articles. It'll give us opportunity to at least have the stabilization fund and the police contract funding. And by closing it on the 23rd, the warrant could be approved by the select board if we have a meeting, hopefully a brief meeting, on Thursday, October 24th. And then that would allow the select board, well, that would allow the staff a full week to type everything up, have it double checked by KP Law, make sure everything, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. If we do an endorsement by the select board by October 31st, that gives us time to post the warrant that next week. And I know, yes, Mike, that is presidential week, but hopefully the posting of the warrant won't be that difficult or time consuming. So we could probably do that on Monday the 4th. That gives us our 2 weeks of posting time. It keeps Mr. Siri sane, and it only introduces...
You can't do something that ain't true now.
and it really only introduces perhaps one very brief meeting on the 24th in which to
I'll make
approve.
a motion in support of that plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I won't be here the 24th, but I think you guys
If-
will be
We'll
fine
just-
for that.
We'll just avoid any topics that
You
we
disagree on?
need you for. No, we can always have a
Oh,
hung
you can
jury.
have it, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't mind having something on the agenda and having a hung jury. I just want to make sure that we don't have anything that we actually have to conduct that night,
Yeah.
other than the warrant. So,
Sounds good. Okay, then I will put that time schedule into place, and Lori, you now have your timeline to get your housekeeping articles in.
Yeah, I really only have a couple. I'm gonna present, two over to the assessors. I thought the special was a good time just to get two out of the way. We've been doing them in all the other towns. I didn't know if the board was aware or not that there are two exemptions we should probably vote in, for veterans, that are new. They probably should have been done at the annual, they weren't on there, so figured I'll present them to the assessors. You guys
Oh,
okay them?
yeah.
I'll type them up, I don't mind. But they're new, they should be done, so I'm gonna put those on. I just have a rescind debt, so I'm not gonna spend any money right now, just gonna get a few things done, quick things done. Yeah,
great, thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.
And thanks for coming tonight. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
And I guess maybe just the final thing with regards to the special town meeting. Since there seems to be consensus, we want a short special town meeting warrant. Should I discourage the department heads from, I guess, placing or asking for operational type expenses for this particular special town meeting? Or do we want to open it up and then that can be decided?
I'm not in favor of opening it up for, anything that's not for a special. I'd like to wait for the annual.
Okay.
What do you say, Brian?
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
Alright.
so if, oh,
I'm not aware of any, like, urgent needs other than the back pay for the police. Everything else can pretty much wait for the annual, I would think.
mhm.
I agree.
And it was mentioned at a department heads meeting a couple weeks or so ago that this was coming. Department heads, I told them to, at the very least, start thinking about it, no guarantees. And at this point, we've only had the requests from EMS, which frankly could probably be addressed with ARPA money, because they weren't necessarily really even operational, they were more capital.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I was gonna say that probably would be a great use for some of the residual ARPA money.
Mhm. And the only other was, there was two requests from the fire department that were operational in nature. Okay, so I will let the department heads know that the the board will take a jaundiced view towards any operational articles.
Yeah. Unless they're like incredibly time sensitive for some reason.
Agree, yep.
I don't know that we have no prior year bills, so I don't think we have.
That's amazing.
I know. It's a first. Cruising along.
Of course, with our luck, you'll find something from like 2021.
Oh, yeah, we'll all that in like March. Yeah, no, so we have nothing that is pressing other than the police tag.
Yep.
Great.
Think you're free.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
Retail host community agreement.
I'm gonna recuse myself.
Good.
And Beth, do you want me to kick it off, or do you want to?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine, except I know that, I just noticed that the address is still that Easton address.
Yes, the address is what's in the Secretary of State's database. So if we put 6 Molasses Hill, I was fearful that someone at CCC or somewhere along the line, people would point out the fact that that's not the legal address for the Commonwealth.
I think both addresses appear in the database, though. When we went back and did that research, both addresses appear.
Well, one was Sun Fusions Cannabis, which I believe is 6 Molasses Hill, and the Sun Fusions Inc. was the address that is here.
Okay.
How much does which address are you talking about? The 27?
27 Guinevere
Yeah.
Road, that's.
How much does that
that's the
address?
accountant. That's
I mean,
the
I under-
accountant's office.
Right. But I mean, we're making an agreement with Sun Fusions
Yeah.
for a parcel at 53
Yeah,
South Maple Street.
yep,
Yes.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so the current clam box.
Right.
Yep.
So effectively, that's the registered agent address.
Yes.
Correct, yep.
And I mean, he could change registered agent address tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, in fact, previous conversation with KP Law said that's certainly by no stretch a showstopper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the type of thing that could easily be changed.
Double check something. It is still reflected that way, okay. Ten.
And Brad, for your edification, Mr. Fromm did produce a conditional purchase and sale for that property. So
Okay.
he did demonstrate at least potential
Right.
ownership and
Right.
potential control.
And then the hours of operations, rather than calling anything out, it's based off of the permit authority?
Correct, yeah, which was actually something that we had discussed during the negotiations, and Mr. Fromm's attorney agreed to that,
Agreed
that it
to
made
it.
more sense to put
Yep.
it in there.
Put it in there as like leaving it open and not necessarily designating it.
Exactly.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, the only comment I have is, this is quite the hefty
It is quite,
HCA.
it is quite the hefty.
I went
HCA
through it, I talked with Ron in depth.
Compared
I'm-
compared to what the state template is,
Yeah.
it's quite robust.
It was more than other HCA's that I had seen.
Yes.
Yes,
So-
if the model template is a fly swatter, this is a sledgehammer.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I'll make a motion to endorse it as written.
second, I guess I have to second. Any discussion?
I believe it was last month that you endorsed a host community agreement for retail. Was there some change to the process that required you to re-endorse it tonight?
No, that was
Cultivation
cultivation
and
and
manufacturing.
manufacturing.
But there was also a third item on there for retail.
Yeah, so for retail, we discussed but didn't necessarily endorse the agreement, and originally, actually, at that meeting, we said we were gonna go with the state template. And then upon further consulting with, Ron had consulted with KP, and they recommended that we use our manufacturing and agricultural, HCA as a model for the retail, which was our original intent, because we did have a significant level of, more definition, I guess, of certain aspects of the retail. So, all we voted at the last meeting was to functionally enter the negotiations on the retail, originally around the state template. We did get, wouldn't call it, I wouldn't call it a enthusiastic endorsement from Sun Fusions, but they were willing to go ahead and use our existing, I think Ron likes to call it the Brookfield template
Yeah.
for our retail as well. So we'll be submitting that with, functionally, it's very similar, but with the verbiage change that the CCC objected to in the last two templates that were submitted, in the hopes that all three of them will get through as is with the, again, more robust verbiage than what's in the typical HCA, as Brad kind of just alluded to. The fact that this is about 60%
15
bigger.
pages, yeah.
Yeah, it's about 60% bigger than anything that's currently in place in the area, so,
And this is based upon the Brookfield template that was used for manufacturing and cultivation,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you actually look at them, and
There's probably,
Correct me.
there's probably more in this, I think,
Yeah,
than,
there-
because there's things in here like traffic mitigation, which
yeah,
befuddled me because the current business, I think, has more traffic issues than,
It probably has more traffic issues, especially where it tends to be, obviously
Yeah.
spike during meal hours, and it is hazardous as heck to get in
Yeah.
there. And periodically, for certain events, they have to get, like, police details to wave all the motorcycles in and stuff like that, so.
yeah, I think you'll find that 90 to 95% similarity between
Yeah.
cultivation, manufacturing, and retail.
Okay. And will this host community agreement be made public? I think it could be valuable to, say, publish these on the website. Some other neighboring towns do the same thing for all their host community agreements. And I think just public awareness and engagement, because knowing what that wording is, I think will be generally beneficial.
Yeah,
For
I
the-
mean,
I,
it's
I
a-
absolutely
it-
think it should be published on the website.
Yeah, I mean,
I just think
all
we've
of these
never had
should-
the resources to
All
publish
of these,
things.
all of these should be posted, honestly,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Once they're at a meeting like this, they're a public document, so.
Yeah, I know we can request them and distribute them, but it'd be nice to make it more formal and
Yeah.
easily accessible.
Yeah,
I'll ask maybe someone from the communications committee if they could help us.
All right, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Just for consideration, we're all aware of the state referendum regarding psychedelics. And there's a national movement to try, eventually to legalize psychedelics. So I'm just putting this out there to know whether or not you need to include psychedelics.
No,
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 No.
because what's gonna happen, that'll all get handled totally separate, and there's no state laws yet, there's no state guidelines yet. We do not need to lean forward on that, we can just wait for, that's one of those ones when they if the referendum passes and state laws occur, at that point, we'll have a certain amount of time, right? And part of it will depend on how we vote as a community, they'll probably use the same model they did with the marijuana, right? And then however that goes referendum-wise for us as a community will probably dictate under the state law what we do or don't have to allow, again, as a community. So, but that's not anything we wanna even touch or consider as part of this process. So, cause it ain't legal yet. So, there's a motion in a second?
yeah. All in favor?
Aye. We've got 2 copies, do we wanna just sign both copies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you could sign both, I will contact Mr. Fromm and his attorney and let him know that they'd be available for pickup on Monday.
He implied he might try to swing by at the end of our meeting.
No? Even better.
Today's the 17th.
Yep.
Trade you. There you go.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, and if he does come, we'll just need to make copies of them.
No, that's why,
No, that's why there's
there's
2
two.
copies.
Oh, okay.
No, they're
Because
both-
we'll sign both as well
I've
and
been
leave
up
one
since
with us.
3 a.m.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're.
I got to sleep in. I got to sleep until 5:40 this morning, so.
Actually, part of the reason I woke up so early was to continue reading and researching this. Open Space Committee discussion and charge.
Actually, Town Hall improvements.
Town Hall Improvement Committee, and we've got a rep here, so.
Would you say a rep?
Town
Right.
hall.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
on
yeah,
Town- you're
yeah,
on Town
sorry.
Hall Improvement
Town Hall
Committee, right?
Improvement Committee.
So we've got,
I had written to the, to Ron, basically, and to the board, just to clarify what the Town Hall Improvement Committee is working on and what we're not working on, just so everybody's
clear
in agreement.
delineation, yeah.
So one of the things that was voted on at the annual town meeting was the access to, the ADA access to the second floor. This is not something that the Town Hall Improvement Committee is working on, just so everybody knows. The other item that we are not working on is the fire alarm system. I believe there was a quote for that.
Did you see this list?
No,
If you just want to confirm that.
okay.
Because I actually thought you guys were going to do the refinishing of the floor. No?
Oh. We are, so refinishing of the floors, yes. So one of the things that we've reviewed the air quality report again. There was one previously, and it recommended that this
Carpet
floor be ripped up.
Right.
Al Jones and I lifted up a corner. Rich had agreed to do it, but schedules never really worked out. So this carpet is adhered to a 1/4-inch luan, which we believe is either screwed or nailed down. So we'll be getting quotes for refinishing the floors in the town hall. I don't know if ARPA money is available for that. or whether that's
Special
something you
town.
want to wait and do at the annual. I'm guessing it's nothing you want to do on the special.
Probably not.
We probably won't even have full
No.
outlook
Yeah.
on prices
I
at
don't-
that
yeah.
point. But, so we were going to rip this up, seeing as it's on Luan. It's a much bigger project, and we have no idea what the condition is of
Un-
the floor
Or
under.
underneath it.
So we don't know even if we can refinish it or if we need to recarpet it. So there's several different, or put a different surface on it, or, you know, a new hardwood, or refinish it, or carpet.
Yeah, Mike suggested like what that happened in his office and put that over, like, over the flooring here.
I don't
What is
think
that,
carpet-
engineered wood?
I don't think carpet's a good solution, even for the short term.
Well,
The only
look,
concern with the carpet was maybe the noise if we have meetings in here, but Jacob said he wasn't concerned with that because it's, if you wanna talk technology.
Noise canceling. Noise
Noise
canceling is the main
cancellation.
thing.
Yeah, when we put the studio in, we'll have a noise gate on the audio, so it should
So-
pull on that.
So that will, you can compensate with your system,
Correct.
but
Our hearing.
our hearing is still, is
Yeah, we still haven't had a solution for that.
correct.
Well, there is a solution
I
for
mean,
that,
you-
but.
there
AirPods.
is, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
carpeting would help, or baffles, you could put baffles in, or, you know, but those are a couple of the questions that come up. So we are not going to take this floor up at this point, because it's much bigger than what we thought, and you might have to live with a very dissatisfied product if we did take it up, not knowing what the condition of it is, the floor. So we will get prices and several options, whether it's refinish, whether it's a new hardwood floor.
Can we try to get those numbers prior to, like, December 1st? So if there is ARPA money to
We could.
allocate, we can?
Yeah. I would think you'd be able to get a square foot price for a new installation, a square foot price for
Worst case.
sanding, and then a square foot price for taking this up, and then, once it comes up, then we'd have to make one of those decisions quick.
Yeah, and that's not something that our committee will make. I mean,
No.
obviously,
Okay.
Right.
that's beyond us. We will
Coordinate and execute.
try to get you the information for you to make the decision. We already have some refinishing estimates for the second floor, and that was one of our discussions, was whether it would make sense to refinish the second floor first. Because we think we know that we can see the condition of that floor. We refinish that floor, and this was gonna be tied up for any length of time.
We can
you
do stuff
potentially could
upstairs.
temporary move up there.
Yeah.
So there's a number of directional decisions to be made.
And I know I've been given this answer. Jacob, what was your timeline to have the upstairs, downstairs thing?
Yeah, from like start to finish,
Or, yeah, be completed
yeah, we're looking at the spring,
late spring?
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we're probably not talking about doing anything here until spring, obviously. I would
Yeah,
guess.
because then we couldn't, because the problem is we couldn't comply with open meeting law, having stuff upstairs until we get the audio-visual stuff
Right.
in.
I can move things around if it's pressing.
So.
All right.
So
so-
if we.
Go ahead.
So if we got the prices and we allocated the ARPA money for the work to be done, that meets the criteria. of the
It does,
law.
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, we don't have to do it, we just have to allocate
Yeah,
it.
okay,
Yeah, I believe we have to the end of 2026 to actually complete
okay.
any of the
That's good
projects.
to know.
So, in which direction you want to proceed? Do you want us to look at, I mean, we do have some refinishing prices for upstairs.
Yeah. What is, do you have those with you? or not?
I actually don't.
Can we put it on the next agenda?
One was $15,000
Somewhere around 20, 25.
for for the hallway, the stairs, and the Great Hall. I think it was around 22. I think it was 15 for one, for the main section, and then probably within ARPA funding money that's
Yeah, I
available.
think we had, what, 43 left?
No.
Yeah, we had,
No, it's near 100.
Yeah,
well, in total, but there was actually an allocation for 100,000 for town hall renovations, of which only approximately 60 or so was actually utilized.
Right.
So that leaves us with a, I guess, encumbered but unexpended balance of approximately 40,000. I think it's a little north of 40,000, but let's just use that as a placeholder.
So that's already allocated to town hall, so the 22K for the refinishing could come out of that, as already voted.
And then it's still 97, if I'm correct, somewhere?
Yeah, because it's the 18,000 that was, I guess, rescinded, so
Yeah.
that's now back into the unencumbered, which brings us up to about 100,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do still have quite a bit of money to utilize, certainly enough to address the projects that the Town Hall Improvement Committee has identified.
So the only concern I would have is heat with the refinishing of the floors, so probably the winter would probably be very difficult to do the upstairs now going forward until warmer weather, right?
In the wintertime would definitely be a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't maintain 6 degree and rising for the refinishing.
Right, exactly. Okay.
So it would have to be a spring project.
And I don't think you're gonna expect the contractor to try to put in, you know, a salamander or
Yeah.
something to keep it.
Once you
Warm
take the oxygen out of the air, the
Right.
urethane dries different,
Right.
it's just not.
So,
Okay.
so, we will get you the prices that we have for refinishing up, just so you'll have that. And then we will.
And then get some quotes on this.
And we will get some quotes on this. By the way, the carpet was actually a suggestion. We did reach out to somebody that did flooring, and they were talking about carpet sections, so that if a portion got damaged or worn, it could be removed. And they were also concerned about the noise element. But, so we'll continue to look into that. We will get you some pricing, and we'll see if we can, at what date would you think you might have to have information? Is that?
I don't think we want to start to cut it too close with the holidays
yeah, because
approaching.
are we gonna still do are we gonna do 2 meetings in December? I don't even remember if we did in other years.
What's that?
Do we do 2 meetings in December?
Depends
Yeah.
on the year, depends on what was on the
Yeah.
agenda.
Maybe we could change a
If we're,
day
if
if
we're,
we-
if we're,
Right.
if we're smart about it, you can usually get away with not having one the back half of December, but other times we actually had one between Christmas and New Year's to do things like liquor licenses and automotive
Mhm.
licenses and a lot of the stuff that's due right at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess my question was, is there a time limit on the ARPA money? Is that
Yeah,
by the?
December
We have to have it allocated by December 31st. We don't have to spend it, we just have to,
Okay, all right.
we have to earmark it
Okay,
fundamentally
all
by
right.
then.
Well, we can get you the prices for the refinishing upstairs, so you will have that if you
Right.
think that's ARPA money.
Yeah, and
I think it's a
honestly,
good use.
honestly, anything that's on here, anything that we can get quotes for, it would be good to know so that we can make a decision about whether to allocate ARPA money or not. Like
Okay.
even, the stuff
Yeah.
like,
And then another interesting thing that we just found out yesterday is from CMRPC, the Cultural Council of Massachusetts has a new facilities fund, and it's a quick little grant process. It just started, it just opened up, I think, in October, and then it's closed. When does it close?
yesterday.
No, it hasn't closed yet. It closes like November 16th. Yeah. Yeah, short window. But we might be able to get, because we are working on the potential to do cultural things here in
Here.
the town hall.
Right.
we might be able to get that.
some
And I think it
support.
was like a matching deal anyways, but
Right.
some money's better than no money.
So is somebody gonna work on that aspect of?
Yeah,
Ron.
yeah, Ron.
As you notice, 6 eyes.
I guess you're
He
somebody.
got volunteered, somebody, anybody could have done it, but nobody did.
When would you expect you could come back with some numbers?
I think Al was gonna contact a couple of people. I don't know what his date was.
I mean, obviously, the sooner the better,
Yep.
and then we
Yeah.
could,
I mean, that depends on when we can reach out to
Sure.
a couple of contractors,
Yeah.
flooring people, looking at obviously different things when you're talking about refinishing for one quote, or, you know,
installation.
removing
Yeah,
and installing new flooring, or if you're talking about carpet, there may be different aspects that we might have to go to different people. And would like to get a couple of different prices. So
Yeah.
we'll try to get it, you know, within your December timeframe for sure.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful if we could, just as a pencil date, we could put in like December 1st.
Okay?
That'll give the select board at least maybe a couple bites at the apple
Okay.
to do the applications and the earmarking of the ARPA money.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Don a couple of questions? Don, would you say 25,000 to do what? The stairway and the hallway and the big room?
I believe the number, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think it was 15,000, something like that, for the main hall, and then for the foyer or for the hall upstairs outside, the great hall, and then the stairs.
Where'd you get that number? That seems high to me.
I don't have the name of where they got it, but I don't remember.
So you're gonna contact more contractors then, obviously, right?
We will try to get compensating quotes, yep.
Compensating,
I think one of them was Jason
Competitive
Petritis
quotes.
that already did,
compensating quotes from where?
No, competitive quotes.
Oh,
Competitive quotes.
yeah, and I believe he,
The office.
didn't he quote for some of the other stuff?
I
Was it
don't,
Jason? I know Jason came by.
Yeah,
Jason Trites?
I believe so.
yeah, I think he was working with Bill,
He's the one,
yeah.
he'd be a good, excuse me,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So, Don, we planning on, so we are planning on maybe getting close to to possibly put hardwoods down too? Is that part of your objective or no? At least in this particular room.
That, go ahead.
No, and part of it has to do with the lobby down here. I'm loud enough.
The hump in the floor is another
There is
issue.
an
Oh,
engineering
right.
problem there, and if we do something here, we're gonna have to.
Take care of it, yeah.
Well, I do remember we discussed that at the last meeting, that
So-
was definitely an objective.
That is one of the options, yes.
That really needs to be repaired and refinished for sure.
Right.
And we agreed on that. Me personally, I would love to see this as part of this. All matching would be beautiful. Oh, and then finally, so I guess we anticipate that it's possible that we could start having our town meetings again upstairs, this annual town meeting in June? Is
If-
that possible?
if we have
With
the-
both floors?
Yep.
Get everything going.
That
Means
would really be great.
You need to do it before June.
That's great, because if it can come together, that would be wonderful. I'm sorry.
You all done with it?
I feel like we're on Donahue here, we're gonna be handing out the
I have to say, I'm severely disappointed to hear this. How does anyone justify prioritizing a floor over the deficiency this building has for an alarm system, a fire alarm system? I mean, that's a safety issue. Well, the floor is not.
I believe we already have,
Please explain it to me, Don.
but the fire alarm, I believe, is already,
The fire alarm is, we just talked about that, that's beyond our committee.
and I
That-
believe that was, we
the
already
funds were
allocated.
appropriated.
Yeah, they're already,
For it.
We
that's already in
appropriated it
process.
at town meeting, right?
Why did you start off saying you're not working on the fire alarm system?
To let everybody know that it's not something that that
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
working on.
Yeah,
So I started out by saying there were several projects that were on a town hall improvement list. And I want to be sure that people knew that those items we are not working on, they're being handled under a different direction.
Well, that part I didn't hear, so I didn't
Yeah.
hear about different direction.
Yeah.
So who's handling the fire alarm system? Who's doing it?
I did do some inquiring with the school.
Oh, that's
and-
right.
And I don't know that they're gonna be able to take it on, but and then I'm struggling for the guy on the planning board, his name, Chris,
Gorman.
Chris Gorman also has had a lot of input on it, and that's more his wheelhouse and his primary profession. So I talked to him some about it, so it's kind of in the process, but it's been stalled out for some time, so it's just a matter of getting it going again.
And why isn't it the purview of the Town Hall Improvement Committee? I mean, it is an improvement
They
to
don't
the
have-
town hall.
They don't have
You know what,
funds
they're a
to-
volunteer board, and, you know, I don't know how much you can tax them for, right, so,
That's
I mean,
acceptable.
And it's beyond our budget. I mean, it's not our, I mean, if they wanted us to help them, we would do that.
so it's good to hear
It's
that.
not,
right?
it's not.
Town
our-
hall,
it's
town
not
hall
our
improvement, we
expertise.
basically usually give them certain things and give them a budget,
Correct.
but this is, yeah.
It's
beyond-
like the second floor access. You know, that was voted on the annual town meeting for $75,000 or whatever it was. Just want to let everybody know, we are not working on that. That is not something that we are taking on. It is in the queue somewhere, but it's not something we're working on.
Marty, you got a little extra time, you wanna volunteer to take on some of this other stuff? I'm being a wise guy.
No, I've been pushing for this for the
Yeah.
past 2 or 3 years, so
Yeah.
yeah, I should get involved.
Sure. Yeah, we would take any help you could give.
So in reference, so I also mentioned the air quality report, which is the second one now, and there are a couple of things that have been highlighted. Some penetration sealing, doing some work downstairs, cleaning up down in the basement. The Town Hall Improvement Committee will work on that. That came up at our last meeting, so we haven't done anything on it yet, but we certainly will.
Well, thank you for
I
your
don't think,
effort.
I don't think there's any or much of a budget requirement for that. I mean, you know, fire stopping some openings, floor penetrations and things like that, relatively.
Yeah, a couple of the other items, I'll call them low-hanging fruit, are replacing the ceiling tiles down in the old police department area. Also addressing or trying to improve the
So,
dehumidification down there.
so with the dehumidifier, do you guys have a drain for it to leave the building, or is that something
There
you
is
have to?
I believe there's a drain down there.
Well, we
'Cause that's where that hose
put
goes.
in the dehumidifier in the computer room
Right.
that was there. And then we put the doors on it so it could be closed. I mean, there was standing water in there before we put the
Yeah,
humidifier.
but I believe there's a hose from that dehumidifier that
Yes.
goes into a floor drain.
Well, it's a hole in the floor.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah, okay, it's just a hole in the floor. then.
it's just a hole in the floor, it's not really a
So
floor
it's probably
drain.
not a great way to.
It
remove
probably
the
is not,
moisture.
I mean, it
Yeah.
works, but
Yeah, but you're probably recycling a lot of it depending on,
I doubt it. I
Yeah,
think
you
it's
think it
probably,
goes
I think
somewhere?
it's probably going down. But I think a large dehumidifier is something that is needed down there. I mean, you've got is there one in the storage area, Mike?
Yes.
So, okay, so you've got one in the computer room. I mean, you've
But I
got,
think that other one is broken, I thought someone said.
Which one?
The one in the storage area? Is it functioning? No, it's not functioning, or? Okay, yeah.
so, that's not something that we were going to
Yeah.
do was replace the dehumidifier, but if you want us to look at that, we can do that as well.
How much storage is utilized down there?
How many square feet?
No, how much storage, like there's stuff down there being stored, is there not?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would think it's pretty important to keep it dry.
Won't take much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, Jacob, didn't you mention something about dehumidifiers at one point? I thought I talked to you about them.
Yeah, I was actually just looking up the specs on the unit that we put down there in the room. I don't think it would handle the entire area, but it is rated for about 8,000 square feet. So it's pretty robust, actually.
Do you have a price on that?
It's about $1,800.
How much?
$1,800.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that was rated for 8,000 square feet?
It's 8,000 square feet, draining, remote sensing, so we can monitor it remotely. And I think another important factor is that it can go almost to freezing, so it can operate at about 34 degrees Fahrenheit, so it can get quite cold without having an issue.
Yeah, it doesn't get that cold in a basement though, it's underground, yeah. They create their own heat, so you've got a little residual.
Yeah, I just want to point out, my point was more just that it's a pretty robust unit and not necessarily something you would pick up for a house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
so-
probably about 4x the square footage that the $300 ones can do.
Right.
So those are the items that I had on, that I had communicated that we'd work on. I don't know, do you have any other questions or suggestions for us to work on?
No, you can have that. I just wanted to snap a quick picture of it, just so I have. No, I gave him mine.
Great. Well, thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
Before you proceed, just one more comment on the fire alarm. Can I speak about the fire alarm system?
yeah, I guess so, because it is town.
Just quickly, just would like to recommend that the board direct the town administrator to develop in some time before a system gets implemented, the evacuation routes and have those posted. Emergency evacuation in case of fire.
Didn't we?
There's one right on the wall right back there.
Yeah.
I think they are in the building.
There's a bunch of them all over
Yeah.
there, there's a bunch of them all over there.
Town hall improvement did all those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Open Space Committee discussion charge.
Yeah, before you, you have a charge, it's approximately like 20 years old, with regards to an open space committee, I believe that was established a while ago. So if the board could review that, if there's any changes, any glaring omissions or deletions.
So I know part of the reason this topic is coming up is because several people wanted to they wanted to create actually like a campground committee. It's more about figuring out the campground situation. But in talking with Lori too, we shouldn't just target one specific thing. It should be generalized.
And there is additional complexity with the campground due to the new tax title taking rules, where evidently there's at least a couple parcels that have been taken recently from the campground, from what I understood. And as a result, it definitely complicates, I guess, how you move forward with those particular parcels.
So do we not own all the parcels?
From what I understood, and this is a discussion that occurred approximately a week ago between myself, the town accountant, tax collector, and the assessors. We spoke with a tax title attorney that specialized in the new tax title process in which it's not nearly as simple as it used to be. Certainly in the state of Massachusetts, there's now a 4 to 5 year look back for parcels that were taken. There can be no extra or excess proceeds that the town used to keep according to the old rules and regulations. Now that money has to be set aside in a type of an escrow account, and the town has to notify or at least advertise the fact that there's excess proceeds that are available, and the former owners or
Their descendants.
yeah, the descendants, anyone who would have a potential claim would then have the ability to utilize those proceeds and in essence take the proceeds. So it's definitely complicated the entire tax title taking process, and what made it worse is that there is a look back. So it's not as if it starts on November 1st, 2024.
I thought that when I talked with Al Jones, that this was 6 or 8 months ago, that he said that we did own the whole property at this point. Is this new information that is?
Correct. I do believe the town owns all of it. The question that's outstanding right now is evidently there were certain parcels.
Did we take possession of the last few parcels in time to duck the requirements of the new law and any, but here's the thing, if we're not selling the property, there is no excess. So if we were gonna, so here's the thing, as far as I'm concerned, this is Mox Nix, because it's never been the intent to dispose of any of that property by virtue of the fact that it's, considered a, historical / burial ground site, right? So who cares about the excess or none, because we're not moving that property.
I thought the fact that we took monies to do studies there, that it couldn't be sold, period. Isn't that correct?
Well, the short answer is we don't know.
Okay.
And the reason why I would say that is that we took monies. We took monies to determine whether or not it was
Burial site.
it was a burial
Yeah.
site, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not it was it indicates that it is, right? No developer in their right mind with that determination made would buy that property, and we had largely committed as a community to maintain it as open space.
Mhm.
How we maintain it as open space, to what level, any potential enhancements to indicate, even if it's just like an information center about the site itself, right? Those are all questions that we have, but you know what? Who cares,
Yeah,
quite
'cause if
frankly?
we're not selling
We're not
it,
selling it,
yeah.
so all of that,
Right.
that's noise, okay?
Yeah.
What we need to do is put together a committee to figure out, do we clear the rest of the stuff off of there? Can we do it without disturbing the site from a standpoint of how we're supposed to maintain it and preserve it, given that it is confirmed that it's a Adena site? And, what improvements can we do without doing any more disturbances fundamentally of what's there, so that the property could be open for some sort of light footprint usage by the community, whether
Well,
it's
we're-
even just walking.
Yeah, I mean, we're
or what have
mowing
you.
it now,
Right.
and all the abutters use it, well, not all, but there are some abutters that use it for a walking
Yeah, the
path.
few
Or
times I've
walking
been down
path
there,
and
there's
stuff.
always been
Yeah.
people in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, getting putting some signs up, getting a little information center together about, the peoples that were there, that sort of thing. That's
Yeah,
really
that'd
what
be-
we
But get the
talked
community's input,
But get the
like the people that
community's
live over there,
about.
get
Right,
their
it-
input
get
too.
their input as to what
So,
they'd like
so
to
the
see.
town acquired it as it was.
Right.
It was obviously disturbed.
Right.
But we're willing to take that on and preserve it Might as
so
well
much as
use it
was.
and utilize it and respect it for what it is.
Yeah, in a
I think
respectful
that's the
manner.
idea for open
This
space, or
committee, yep.
can we build anything on it? You
Right.
know, could we do an information center, or,
Can you have a parking lot in there at the beginning at the,
yeah.
you know? Because if you're gonna have
Is,
open
is
space,
the
they
whole,
need to park
is the
somewhere.
whole site restricted from any kind of construction?
And I think that was the whole point of doing that survey, is to understand, I think there are some areas, like right by the entrance and stuff, where we could at least put in a gravel lot or something
Right,
like that.
right.
You know, the goal would be though not to disturb too far deep, because even though they didn't necessarily find anything directly in that area, you wanna try to,
But if this new law is a 5-year look back, we've owned it for more than 5 years.
most of it, there's a couple of them that might be right on the boundary. There was like 3 parcels that
Right,
were
those
lit
were the parcels that were,
across the street,
re-
or no?
no,
Okay,
no, these were campsites that they sold to individuals.
that's right.
I think there was 2 or 3, I don't remember, but I think
Yeah.
we've owned all of them for more than,
5
it was
years.
pre-COVID. I know it was
Yeah.
I believe it was pre-COVID.
Yeah, but, yeah, depending, if it was right pre-COVID, it still might be inside the 5-year look back at this point still. So we're looking at doing it as open space and making their first mission be campground.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
The only thing that stands out is, I see it's a 9-member committee.
Yeah, I
Do
would say
I-
we want to do like 5.
Yeah.
Well, I would think
Or
we're
you
gonna have
think
a hard
7.
time filling 9 positions. but
Yeah, no, I
could
think
be
we'll have a hard
wrong.
time filling 9. I was thinking 7.
But even
We could do 7.
if we went with 5 and then we had more interest,
We could always
bump
increase it.
up.
Yeah, so we'll go with 5.
Or you could go 5 with up to 2 alternates.
Sure.
Yeah.
Since we're doing the charter, you know, I think you can get away with that.
Might suggest that the committee, you reach out to some of the Pine Lane and Hobbs Lane people, that they might want to serve on that
Yeah.
committee, since
Yep.
it's in their backyard. I'm not saying it needs to be the whole committee,
Yeah.
but they certainly should have some representation.
Yeah. I mean, what's the issue with keeping it? I mean, I guess the issue with keeping it in 9 is if you get 5 people, or
Then they
4
need every
people-
single one of them in order
Yeah.
to have a, let's do 7. 7 works, because then even if you only get 5, so long as you get 4 out of 5, they still technically can meet as a quorum.
Mm.
7's good.
Okay.
Is that your motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept this, charge, just amended to read 7 instead of, 9, and to, modify the years stated to align on current time period.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, we had some already.
Oh, sorry.
So I've been looking at the master plan since Don brought it up, and there's a section in there about the open space recreation, natural and cultural resources. And is the charge for the open space committee already defined?
Yes.
Is this,
There's one from 2005
2005.
okay,
that, talks about they'll facilitate implementation of town's open space recreation 5-year action plan. I don't know if we have one right now, is probably the only.
No, that, we do from 2019, and
That's
it's gonna be needing to get updated
Get
soon.
refreshed,
Yeah.
so,
Do you want a copy of this, Steve, so that you can post it?
sure, that'd be great, thank you.
yeah. So, but basically,
you.
it just talks generally about how the committee will, you know, update our open space and recreation plans and actively, seek out funds to try to, enhance open space for use by the community.
Okay, because as part of the communications committee, we're doing our best to put the charges on the website for each
Okay.
board and committee. So
Yep.
just want to make sure this is relatively up to date, and once approved, we can post it on there and create a board page.
Yeah,
for
and we're
the
just,
open
we're gonna
space
be
committee.
We're gonna be accepting it less all the dates that are from 20 years ago. So,
Very good. Okay, that was my only
Yeah,
question.
Yep.
and Steve, as soon as I correct the dates and put the minor modifications, I can forward a copy to you and Beth.
Sure, sounds good. I think
All
you're
right.
on.
so.
Agricultural.
I'll make a motion to approve next year's agricultural fair. That was fun. I
wasn't able to
I
make
love
it.
Apple Country Fair, although I missed that this
Oh,
year.
no, I
'cause
did
had
make it
another
to the agri,
commitment.
what am I talking?
Yeah,
I'm
But,
fading.
but that was
In my
fun.
water.
They did a nice job.
So it's August 9th?
Yep.
From 10 to 2? I'll second
Yep.
that motion.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resignation of the veterans agent. Now, I know we just have resignation in there. This probably should have been,
They should have included interim appointment for.
yeah.
Yeah, she has, the resignation is not, I guess she's still available, is what she said.
Right.
But she also has worked out an arrangement with the Veteran Services Officer of, well, actually, she does Warren, she actually does a few other towns, Michelle Durkee, and she has expressed interest to not only fulfill, I guess, the interim period, but she's also interested if and when the select board wants to, I guess, advertise.
We need to post the position.
And that's what she's aware of that. I
Mhm.
said we would have to, even if it's, for just a couple of weeks, we're
Yeah.
pretty much obligated to post a position. She understands that. So I could maybe have a motion by the select board to.
Yeah, send
to
with regrets, the resignation,
Mhm.
and then, yeah.
Post 2 weeks?
Right.
Right, and I think even though it's not technically on the agenda, I don't think I don't think it's a problem to say that.
This is one of those items not reasonably
Reasonably
anticipated,
anticipated.
because we need that filled.
We need that
Yeah.
filled. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept with regrets, Ellen Moore's resignation. It sounds like, but her effective date of the resignation is the 31st of December. But to also approach Ms. Durkee about accepting an interim appointment
Mhm.
at the earliest available time.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
My eyeballs are. I gotta go.
You almost fall asleep on us a couple times?
Huh?
Did you almost fall asleep?